Hello, everybody. Happy Monday morning. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. We've got Rachel Recchia commenting on the Tino Aven love triangle that happened less than a week ago on the finale of The Bachelorette. As we know, Aven showed up and was like, hey, Rach, want to get out of here? And then he kicked her up on the motorcycle and they rode off into the sunset. Or whatever they ended up doing. They probably just hung out for a few minutes and got crafty. Either way, it happened right in front of Tino, which pissed a lot of people off. Some said it made a martyr out of Tino because, of course, he was guilty of cheating on Rachel. But now, because the show just properly humiliated Tino in front of the world, some folks are saying cruel and unusual punishment. Well, Rachel says, not my intention to bully. I had nothing to do with it. And Aven actually canceled his podcast interview he was supposed to do with Caitlin Bristow the next day. So you have to imagine Aven, being a seemingly very nice guy, wanted nothing to do with the drama as it came out. Follow me on Instagram at DNeals. I'm also on Patreon at patreon.com/Dave Neal. So I'm going to play for you guys several different clips. Rachel mentions on Ben Higgins' Almost Famous podcast on two different occasions. She really hammers home the point that she in no way wanted to bully Tino right there. So we'll get into that in a second. And Emily left us this on our last video, said, hi, Dave. It's not just a regular Monday morning. It's also Rosh Hashanah, the start of the Jewish New Year. Well, happy Jewish New Year to everybody. Rosh Hashanah to all of you guys. And if you don't know, Rosh Hashanah is not just a Jewish New Year. It's literally the day of shouting or blasting, which, of course, sometimes I've been accused of having a voice that shouts and blasts. It's the first of the Jewish high holy holidays, as specified by Leviticus. Excuse me. Anyway, we wish all of our Jewish listeners and everyone out there a happy Rosh Hashanah. Okay, so let's get into this story here. I'm going to play 4 different clips from the podcast. You know, to be quite honest, Ben Higgins is one of my favorite Bachelor voices. I think they could... So I believe this interview was actually filmed maybe in Las Vegas at the iHeartRadio Festival. I could be wrong, but either way, it was done live and in person, which is such better sound quality. If I could offer Ben... if I could offer them any advice, it's to quit doing these Zoom interviews that they normally do. I know him and Ashley aren't in the same location, but it really takes away from what is now here a good conversation. So have a listen, and I'll play the different clips here where I think Rachel does a really good job opening up to Ben.
And yet people are still choosing sides. We're going to talk about that in a bit. Because you don't know the full story, obviously the public doesn't feel like they know the whole story. Was there anything that happened on Monday night that you wish was said or brought to light that you didn't have the opportunity to bring to light
Tuesday
because of the circumstances, because of the speed at which this interview, on television existed, like 7 minutes of you guys sitting on a couch? Is there anything out there that you would like to say just to bring clarity to the situation?
Yeah, I was really hoping. I mean, obviously we had a super heated argument.
True.
Filmed way before I sat down on the couch with him. And I was really hoping, my hope was that we could sit on this couch and just, be civil. I do wish the best for him. I don't want to sit there and make him feel bad or bullied or whatever. Obviously that transpired was out of my control for the most part. But yeah, I really was hoping we could sit down and kind of get to that place where we're, just wishing each other the best. And unfortunately that just didn't happen. So it is sad, I think, for both parts that we're just kind of in this place where it didn't end well in person.
And I think people will say the reason it didn't happen is because, first of all, they just don't give them enough time to have conversations. So Tino just trying to basically sift through why he did what he did. And of course, no excuses, but we like explanations. And then Rachel saying basically whatever you say that's going to tell the nation why you cheated on me is going to expose me from our personal stuff. So it's a delicate place to be. It's almost like they've got classified information. And so every time we ask a question, they're like, that's classified. And it's like, all right, I guess, well, I'll go F myself if I can't know. But of course, I think there could have been a way for them to have this conversation. And it could have been moderated a little better if there was more time. If there was more time, I feel like if I were moderating the conversation, I'd be like, Rachel, let him share why he felt the way he did. It doesn't mean it's an excuse on you, and then Rachel can respond. And it's sensitive. You can't. It's a very contentious time. So they didn't get there. They just didn't get there. They didn't get to that part where even someone like Greg Grippo and Katie Thurston, they had a contentious convo, and they actually were able to resolve it to a point where, like, I wish them the best. We never got that. We just never got to that point during this interview.
Or in our initial argument, but there's really nothing I can do.
No, I mean, it's a weird environment to be bringing this out. So on national television, so will you at some point reach back out for healing, or do you feel like this is now done and you're going to just move forward and he can move forward? And what happened on Monday night is enough for you guys just to close the book and move forward?
Yeah, I think that is a huge thing about healing. And especially when you're in a position I'm in of just wanting all the answers and wanting to know exactly what happened and what did she say and all those things. But I think I've come to accept everything with having at least a month to kind of heal and just realizing I'll never get those answers, and just not knowing is what I have to kind of live with. And I do wish him all the best. I don't think.
Wow. So she says, I'm never going to get answers. And that's probably right. I don't think he's going to, so far, we'll have to see what he says on interviews. He cheated. Everyone knows that. He's admitted to it. And we just don't know the severity at which he planned for that to happen. And maybe he doesn't. Sometimes it can be subconscious. You lash out, you do stupid things because you're pushing people away, whatever it might be.
Like our lives were not aligning. It was very clear that it wasn't a healthy relationship for us any longer. But what happened then is people...
All right, so here's Ben describing his relationship with his fiance as they broke up and finally getting the chance to talk years later.
Chose sides. Team Ben, Team Lauren. And you still care about that person, right? You still have a piece of your heart that is with them. And it got really hard for me. That was probably the hardest part, because there was two sides to it. One, I was like, how can you be Team Lauren? Look at me hurting over here. And then the second was, how could you be Team Ben? She's hurting over there. And so finally in our relationship, and I've never said this publicly, it took a year and a half, but we did finally talk. Not long, but there was a closure to it. Hey, I'm just wishing you the best.
And you hope that Tino and Rachel, for their own sanity, could get to that point. I think a lot of times when you can get that closure, it's when you no longer need it. It's all right, the closure is good if it comes, but it has to happen when both sides have completely moved on. All right, so now Ben discusses what it's like being a lead, and we can kind of see glimpses here of Rachel, I think, empathizing with Clayton. No one is asking her this question, but I'd love for people to ask her the question about how she thinks. Did she think about Clayton and the hard decisions he had to make when she was stuck in a similar position?
For people out there listening who have never been on the show and have never been a lead, can you give some clarity into what you were experiencing starting with night one filming? Because I got to talk to you the day of night one airing. You and Gabby were so excited.
Yeah.
And I almost at that moment, I want to every year, and I never do, is be like, hey, this is awesome. This is going to suck.
Prepare yourself.
This is not going to be easy.
I know.
And if you're with somebody, just know that it's really hard on them to understand how you could have feelings for multiple people and be kissing people up until the 2 days before your engagement, and in your mind you've made sense of it, but in their mind they don't get it. And so can you give a little clarity to the behind the scenes when we weren't getting interviews with you and you weren't coming on the podcast, to what watching the season back felt like for you personally, and how easy or hard it was?
Yeah, I think it's hard for everyone. Fortunately for me, I did have Gabby with me, and we were able to experience this together and be able to lean on each other as people who were going through watching our relationship while we're trying to nurture and grow this new, engagement as well. So it was great to have her, but I think you really don't understand the scrutiny you're opening yourself up to when you originally go on the show. And I think I saw one of the other Bachelorettes post about this recently. I think it was Desiree. And she was like, when you go on the show, you make these decisions for yourself and you expect everyone to see what you're doing and understand it. But that's just not the case. You really do have to watch yourself make mistakes and, listen to what everyone has to say about that. And I was not perfect. I was making so many mistakes, and I definitely was able to see that and learn from it. But it doesn't necessarily take away from the fact that you are constantly being bombarded with, all these DMs and messages and things that are coming straight to you. And it does affect you and your relationship. And it's difficult because you're going through all this while trying to grow this new relationship. And I think on both ends, there just is a level of difficulty in having to get past that.
All right, so we're getting some more answers here. If you read kind of between the lines, she's essentially saying all the hate she received while she was, with Tino following the show. She's getting all the social media hate, and it does affect their well-being. And the key is to avoid it. I understand you can't always do that. I still once in a while dabble in seeing the hate that comes my way, and I'm not even the center of the show. And it is infuriating if you don't know. I have thick skin. I work in entertainment. I've done this for years, and it is infuriating, folks. Trust me. But now she can empathize a little bit with Clayton, and it does beg the question, and we might have a separate video on this. Could Rachel and Clayton get back together? So she made this TikTok. Let's see if we can pull this up here. Pilot Rachel on TikTok. Let me see if I can refresh this.
Don't ask. Is there a chance? No. Girl.
All right, so this is an audio clip. Obviously, it's already saved, but Michelle says, is there a chance? And Rachel says, don't ask. Don't ask. But hey, I think there is a chance. Maybe we'll get into that later on. I think there is a chance that Clayton and Rachel could, make a comeback now that he is officially off the or back on the market, I should say. So I'm going to jump all the way to the 30-minute and 4-second mark. And this is where, let's see. Rachel discusses the Aven situation in its entirety.
About it. What do you want to say about Aven? What in the world happened, I guess, that night, and what exists today?
Yeah, no, it was obviously a very big surprise for me. I think for everyone, not something that I thought was going to happen. I was able to talk to him after as well. I think the Aven situation kind of put Tino in a bit of an awkward position as well.
Sure did.
But I do want to reiterate that no one wanted that to be a bullying situation or a situation where one person is being put down. And it was not Aven's intention for any of that to happen as well. But he has just been someone that's always been so supportive of me, even throughout the season. He's just someone I always look to in hard times. So to have him kind of in a really hard time, it was nice to see him and catch up with him after.
Yeah, I think that's one thing. I'm not one to blame the show for everything. I just don't think it's necessarily always appropriate because I don't think it's always true. But that was a situation that put you in a really weird space. The criticism kind of came when I was looking. I was like, well, how could Rachel do this? I was like, well, I don't think she did. What was she supposed to say? Sorry, even no.
And I was also trying to get off the stage as soon as I could. I mean, I think everyone saw that on my face. So yeah, it was just very much an awkward situation. And looking back, I really don't want anyone to feel like they were being bullied or put in a bad place.
I love that she refuses to say Tino's name. She's like, looking back, I don't want anyone to feel bullied. You mean Tino. You don't want Tino to feel bullied. Obviously, this was about him in that instance.
Like you said, that's the one thing I really do want to get across, that was never my intention or Aven's.
Yeah. Well, it definitely
and I believe her. And by the way, if you watch the last video, I said that the podcast is only 30 minutes long. But if you see here, I've never seen this happen before. I've accused the Bachelor producers of probably trying to edit out part of their podcast. And when you try to skip ahead, it goes back to 30 minutes. It's just very strange. I don't know what's going on there. It's very strange. The workings over there, I don't know if it's a tech glitch or if it's because they're trying to replace the audio. I don't know, folks, but let me know what you think. Look, I'm on Team Tino. I'm on Team Rachel. I just I want them both to find their happiness and recover from this poor situation that the producers put him in. Whether it was an accident or not, that was a very messy situation that they didn't need. We didn't need to put extra weight on an already dramatic situation. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment. I'll be on Patreon at 10 a.m. today. Bye, guys.